Welcome back, and you're watching Breakfast Show on Nile TV International, and our first segment we will be discussing the conference dealing with the reform of education in Egypt and the government's effort to develop and ameliorate our educational system, especially that during that conference the Minister of International Cooperation, Dr. Sahar Nasr, pointed out that developing education is investing in young people to achieve a development framework, and that during that conference they discussed the roadmap for the development of education. Actually, that conference was in collaboration with the World Bank and in attendance of several international entities from Harvard, from Japan, Finland, and many other countries to benefit from their educational experience. And to shed more light on that topic, joining us right now in the studio, media expert and radio journalist Iqbal Youssef. Welcome with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Mrs. Iqbal, as you know that in Egypt the education has not been progressed or developed since ages. What are the experiences can Egypt benefit from other countries in order to add a progress to our syllabuses in schools?
Well, okay, to start with, we all know that education is a national project. Without education, you can never build on anything else in our state. And we've heard about Japan and the educational system there. We heard about Malaysia and how development there triggered and was on the rise just because of giving more attention to education. And here in Egypt, unfortunately, it has to do with stuffed syllabi, too much. And education has to do with quality more than quantity. And it has to do with good training and helping pupils gain more experience linked to the work market. Unfortunately, all this is missing right now. And we've got excellent rules, excellent laws, excellent initiatives, but no seriousness, unfortunately. This is something we do really miss.
Well, recently, actually, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi launched the educational initiative which is known as Knowledge Bank. How do you see that initiative? From your field of expertise, to what extent do you feel that will help in reforming the educational system in Egypt?
Well, it's an excellent initiative, okay, but still you have to put it into effect. And it won't be effective just with the Ministry of Education. You need support from the Ministry of Culture, for instance, the Ministry of Youth. You have to link education to other social activities so as to make this something interesting for the pupils, school pupils, and university students as well. This has to be linked to other social activities, cultural competitions, scientific competitions, and so on. Unfortunately, we don't have this now. We used to have this before. The Reading for All project did work out well at a certain time because other ministries were into the project, not just the Ministry of Education. So you need to consolidate efforts with all ministries. As we've said, it's a national project, and it's the key national project for actual development.
Can you give us more details about the Knowledge Bank initiative, and if someone wants to register, what is the way?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have any idea because not much was said about it. It was just something launched, a good idea, but have you got
with no details?
With no details.
Mm-hmm.
Which institute said that it will be responsible to put this initiative into effect? Nothing yet. Mm-hmm. This was just what I was saying. Now, we are excellent in launching initiatives and creating new ideas, but you need creating new methods to put such ideas into effect. I think so.
Well, during the conference, the Minister of International Cooperation mentioned especially Japan and Finland. So, do you know much about their educational system, or to what extent?
Well, in Japan it has to do with practice, not just memorizing. I'm sure of that. And they're very creative, actually. But the point is, each culture has its own nature. You cannot just imitate what's going on in Japan. No. You've got your own systems, you've got your own culture, you've got your own background. So this has to be linked with our society here. Not just imitate what's going on there in Japan, especially when it comes to elementary education. You cannot just imitate what's going on there because simply you don't have the facilities found there. So you have to launch something that copes with your facilities, your abilities and capabilities. I think so.
Nowadays there's a sort of campaign from parents, especially mothers, against the syllabuses in schools, and they're calling it's a revolution against the education. How do you see such rise from the parents?
They do have a point. They do have a point. Your academic year is not that long. You've got stuffed syllabi, full of info and full of things. You just go, sit in the exam, you just pour all the knowledge in the answering sheet and just ask any of the kids, what was this exam about? They won't even tell you. They get totally brainwashed. So it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality of the info they are getting, the knowledge they are getting, and how they are getting it.
Do you feel that the private sector schools are totally different from the public ones, and actually that our issue is with the public sector more?
No, not really. Of course, private schools are different when it comes to the way of teaching, when it comes to the number of students in a class, and so on. But still, even in private schools, no, you still have private lessons, for instance. It's not just in the public-run schools. Private schools as well, they have this problem, and it's out of reason to be in school in the morning, then in a private lesson in the afternoon, and you've got studying to do, you've got homeworks to do, double homework. It's double effort, and unfortunately in vain. They don't really get much of such effort they are doing. They don't gain much. I don't think so, no. Not as it was the case 20 or 25 years ago. It was quite different. I remember about 30 years ago, no, our schools were different. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
I used to take private lessons.
But I'm sure, okay, that was in high school, but third primary, fourth primary?
Oh yeah, I had to do I remember.
Well, you do look young, but I remember, no, I'll tell you something. I remember first secondary. I remember that very well. We had an excellent English teacher, Mrs. Yessa, may her soul rest in peace now. We had 2 lessons each Monday. It was for library. We used to get excellent knowledge, excellent grammar, vocabulary, and so on, just from those 2 lessons. They were the last 2 lessons of the day, and of course you wouldn't get much info in English or whatever. So she used to make us read and write a summary of whatever we finished, 2 chapters, 3 chapters, and so on. And the best summary would get a prize the following week. I do still remember this. I doubt very much that this is now here.
Well, internationally, according to the educational systems all over the world. Egypt became the last or before the last in its in the education system, as it's one of the worst countries in this system. Does this ring any bell for those who are responsible for the educational system in Egypt? Didn't you realize that there are any efforts to have another look or to give an importance to this system?
Okay, you give oral importance, but practical, no. You've got excellent laws and rules to regulate the educational system, but they are not in effect. They are not. Whoever would show some irresponsibility should be punished. If this happens, you'll find all schools going the right way. You'll find the educational system, you'll find the syllabi and so on. Everything will be going on the right way, on the rise. Of course, this is a long-term policy. It will take much long time, but still we need to start. Just the first step.
Actually, it's quite interesting because usually we tend to say, oh, the teachers are the problem. They don't give out all what they have during the class session. Then the teacher will say, but there are so many kids in the classroom, we're underpaid. So how can we solve that dilemma?
Of course, this is a predicament. You have to start putting a proper system. To start with, we have to, I think so, I think that syllabi should be reduced. Okay? You don't need such quantity, no. Why? But at least make it in a creative way. You should train the kids to be creative. No, they are not being treated this way. Whatever, you've got an ideal answer. If you just switch out of this answer, then you won't get the mark. That's it. Full stop.
Stereotyping the answer.
Yes, yes. And even it seems because of the overcrowded classes and the overstuffed syllabi, the teachers are not creative in teaching as well. So this is another problem. And again, the academic year is short. You've got too much, come on, it is. You've got holidays. You've got holidays, and as long as you've got a short academic year, you've got to have short syllabi, more concise, and be more creative in teaching, in helping the students be creative, not just get a model answer, just put it in the answering sheet and, okay, you've got 100% of the mark. No, this is not education, and this is why we are now least in the list.
How do you see the role of the civil society in developing the education system?
Well, it's a catalyst. No, it's not. It would help, but not the main element or the key factor in improving the educational system. Now, it has to do with the state first. Then you'll have some support from the NGOs and so on. But still, it has to do first with the state so that the teachers and the parents find it safe enough to encourage their students be creative, not just go out of the model answer and lose marks.
Mm-hmm. What about vocational training? Do you feel that we need more to stress more emphasis on it?
Yes, of course, because vocational learning and training, it's more related to the work market, more than the academic ثانوية عامة and so on. But no, people don't really look at it with pride. And this has to do with the culture, the surrounding culture. So I think now you should change the concepts of people, and that's why I'm telling you it doesn't just have to do with the Ministry of Education. Other ministries should support as well. Minister of Culture, and other ministries. He is Minister of the Ministry of Industry, and so on. You know, there was something in the ministry. It was run by and affiliated to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and that was very, very creative, and it helped a lot. Many of those who joined in, they used to make their own planes, model planes, and they would take the planes and fly it. But I don't know, for instance, there is no media focus on such a project. And this had to do with the Ministry of Aviation, Civil Aviation, not the Ministry of Education. But that was very nice. And most of those who worked there were from the Faculty of Engineering. So I think we should give more focus, media focus, on such projects. That would help much.
If you are a Minister of Education and you have the power to change, what will be your first priorities?
My first priority, and that will be shocking, put some limit to free of charge education.
Really?
Yes.
There are so many people who cannot afford.
Okay, I'll tell you something.
Yes.
This would be applied on elementary education. But why secondary education and university education? Why? Those with excelling abilities, they do deserve this.
But that means that we have to open the door for scholarships.
Okay, why not? Why not? At least those who take this process seriously, I mean the students themselves, they will show more responsibility. They'll find themselves, they have to show seriousness in order to get a scholarship. Just like those who apply for universities abroad. What's the difference? They search for scholarships and they stress on their GPAs and so on to show that they deserve the scholarship.
But there are people there are students who are not that clever and they have the right to have an education, a free education.
Okay, to a certain limit. But why university education? We've been saying if you change concepts of the society itself, then you can, those graduating from high school, ثانوية عامة for instance, in IG and so on, will be as equal as those from vocational schools. So, but if I'm not that good in academic education, then why should I carry on with it? And why should I burden the state with such a budget? If I won't help the state in this field, why should I burden the state budget?
But then there are those who are clever and cannot afford it, and then you're taking their
if you're
chance from
clever,
them.
this is your right. We've said that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's according to your GPA. And even if you're not, okay, let's see, if you're not that good in history, for instance, you're good in physics. Okay, you'll join in vocational training somewhere else, and you'll prove yourself.
But sometimes you're not clever at school, but when you graduate, you become clever at what you're doing as a job.
Because it has nothing to do with your education.
But without education...
But don't expect suddenly to have a society of genius.
No, I'm not saying that. Why? No, I'm not saying that. Yeah. But I mean that you would go to whatever your talents will take you. If you're good in history, you'll take a line. If you're good in physics, you'll take another line. If you're good in IT, information technology, a third line, and so on. And then you'll find successful people. We don't need genius figures. Just successful people who are really interested in what they are doing, and then you'll see. They will give excellent results. But this system now, do you think they would?
No, of course not.
Of course not, no. But it needs very courageous and bold steps to start with, and it needs to give the entire society a sense of justice and fairness.
But in the United States, Canada, Great Britain, all over the world, there is a public sector system up to high school, and it's all subsidized.
Okay.
But the idea is in the subjects, not in eliminating the subsidies. I tend to believe. I don't know, what do you think, Dina?
In Germany, for instance, the universities are for free of charge.
Okay, but you're not Germany. Let's reach the academic level of Germany and sit and reconsider. But we are not, unfortunately, we are not. We were at a certain time. Remember, during World War II, you had Queen Sophia being educated here in Egypt, okay? Would you think if a world war, under any condition, erupt out there, will they come and be educated here? Will they join the universities here? I doubt very
No,
much.
of course not.
Okay, so you just need to first upgrade. That's why I was just telling you, okay, Japan is an excellent model, Malaysia an excellent model, okay, but we've got our conditions, and we've got to work on improving our system according to our conditions, our culture, our potentials first.
Okay, this is your first plan. What's next?
Next, changing syllabi, but gradually, so as not to turn into a state of chaos. But again, syllabi need to change, definitely. You should, I think you need to be more creative in teaching. You need to train the teachers themselves. They need more training on how to help the students, not just memorize, be creative. Put an end to the model answer. This is something very important, I think so. And that's why I think that those who can afford, they now turn to international schools, not even private schools. That's because international schools have this scope of helping them to be innovative in their answers, being creative. Okay, instead of moving to international schools, why not implement this in our schools? And I don't think it has to do with the crowded classes. China is overcrowded, and Japan as well. I think population there is big population. So it has to do with the means of teaching. So another important step is to help teachers be more creative and improving their conditions, improving their salaries. You cannot tell them just to stop private lessons and with no
Alternative.
exactly.
So now, as a mother, or even if you have
I am
younger
a mother,
sister, yeah.
but my
What's the thing you
that's
struggle with the most?
finishing your studying. And that was very difficult at a certain time because you have to go to Russia.
Well, and that was Mrs. Iqbal Youssef, and we'll be back after the break with the next segment, so stay with us.